You can see so much in me that's new. I never felt till I looked at you. For your eyes only for you.
Hello and welcome to Drive-In Double Feature Podcast. I'm Nathan,
I'm Ryan.
and this is the podcast where we talk about two movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before we get into today's episode, I want to talk to you about our Patreon. Over at patreon.com/Drive-In Double Feature Podcast, we have a bunch of bonus episodes where we do things like fun quizzes. We talk about our movie tastes. Hell, we make fun of each other's movie tastes over there. So if that sounds fun to you, check it out. And it's only $5 a month. But getting into today's episode, we are talking about For Your Eyes Only. Yes, it's Bondzilla again, and we're talking about the 12th James Bond movie. Can you believe we've done a year of James Bond reviews? It doesn't feel like it.
It doesn't. We realized that when we were about to record. We're like, oh, it's been a year.
Yeah, so happy year anniversary of this. Yeah, Dr. No, I feel like I just watched it. But we just keep on chugging along. We're on to Roger Moore now, which you think it would go by faster, but Sean Connery and Roger Moore both had very long runs, and Roger Moore's is still going.
And we took a brief pit stop too.
Yes, we did. We did take a brief pit stop. We might take another later. Who knows? But this one, 1981, James Bond enters into the 80s with a new director too, John Glenn, for his first time making movies. So it's not the same group. I mean, he's edited other James Bond movies, so he's still part of the pool, but he's at least a fresh director on the scene.
Yeah, I can't believe they hired an astronaut to direct the movie.
Yeah, I know. You know, I thought about that joke too, and I was but I'm glad you did, Ryan.
I go for the low hanging fruit.
But why do they get an astronaut for the not space James Bond movie?
Yeah, they should have hired him for Moonraker.
Yeah, right. That's actually a big deal with this movie too. Moonraker made tons of money, and we talked about that before. But moving forward, they really wanted to ground James Bond, bring him back to Earth, as they kept saying, in the behind the scenes that I watched. And they got John Glenn to do that. This is a James Bond, a Roger Moore James Bond, I should say, that kind of peels back the funniness, little less silly, and tries to take itself a little more serious. And I feel like that's a good way to start a new decade. It's a fresh decade. We're moving in. Let's try something different.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, for the most part, the movie is like that. But I want to say though that the opening to this movie is probably my least favorite opening to any James Bond movie right now.
Totally agree. I totally agree. It is definitely the silliest part of the movie, and I do say ground him. This it's funny to say this, to be like, oh yeah, this is Roger Moore's most serious one. It still has its silly moments. Don't get me wrong, but that the intro, oh my god. So I guess they had no copyright because of Thunderball. The guy who owns that Thunderball script claimed that he owned the Blofeld character, and they could not use it anymore. So it almost feels like a screw you. We're gonna kill off Blofeld in the beginning of this movie. It's even a pseudo sequel to On Her Majesty's Secret Service, because you even see Teresa's gravestone at the beginning of this movie.
Yeah, well, they do that. They show Blofeld. They don't. Well, they don't show him, but it's pretty heavily implied that it's him, and they turn him into like a sniveling coward. Like when he finally gets picked up by James, and he's carried around. It's like, Mr. Bond, please, no.
I think he says the line, "I will buy you a stainless steel delicatessen."
Yeah, buy a delicatessen. But I'm just like, why? Like, why? I mean, they didn't have to do that. They could not have showed Blofeld. They could have just gotten any other. I would have liked this opening so much more. But
yeah, it makes it even goofier, and like just the setup is really dumb, right? Because he remote controls the helicopter that Bond is in, and then for whatever reason flies the helicopter over him, RC remote controlling the helicopter, so Bond can go, oh, there he is. There, okay, I'm gonna take care of him. I can see him. He's on the rooftop. Just a horrible plan.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it at all, and I don't like the direction they took in it. I mean, which is a shame because there is a really impressive scene where he flies a helicopter like through a building,
Yeah,
and how they shot that was actually really impressive. But to me, I was so turned off by that. I just like I don't. I don't like this opening.
yeah, and for me it kind of killed some things later in the movie too. One of the big topics in this movie is revenge and how revenge can affect you. But this only goes for the Bond girl. This whole intro is revenge. He kills this guy for revenge. Bond does kill again for revenge later in the movie. For whatever reason, Bond can do it, but he's telling this girl like, no, 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 don't seek vengeance. It'll kill you. It'll ruin you.
Yeah, he's allowed to commit revenge, and he's totally justified, has zero repercussions for doing
Mhm.
this. But when she wants to kill somebody that murdered her family,
Oh
that's
God, you sure? I'm going to quote Chinese proverbs at you
yeah.
really quickly.
James Bond. I'm going to be the judgy one.
Yes, super weird. But let's say one positive for this movie. From this scene, we get the opening title sequence, and it's the song "For Your Eyes Only." Um, I've never seen this movie before. I've heard this song before. Amazing song. "For Your Eyes Only" is an incredible Bond theme. It's one of my favorites.
I really, really, really love this one.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's up there
Oh yeah,
as a favorite. I don't. I'd have to just try to decide later where it would fall in the ranking, but I mean, very high upper tier for
yeah.
me. And you know, one thing too is we do a video podcast. We don't talk about this, but Nathan, you'll see what no one else can see because it's for your eyes only. That
Yes,
my
yeah.
my video.
Yeah, it's for my eyes only. Whatever you're doing right now, you looking at your phone or whatever. For you.
No, what?
No, well,
I never need to hide,
no,
okay?
okay. But for the audience, it's like you said to me over text. It's for your ears only. This
Yes.
episode, yes. Uh,
But seriously, no, I do really like this one a lot.
mm,
I really like the opening too. I mean, it's kind of similar to some of the other ones, but it's
mhm.
like there's a lot of bubbles and it's like kind of very aquatic, I'll say.
Yeah, no, I agree. It definitely has that vibe to it. And Sheena Easton sings the song, and I think she's a great singer. And they actually include her in the title sequence. So this is the first and I think only time that a singer is in the title sequence, I believe. And she I don't know. I think she looks just like any Bond girl. She fits right in. And I mean, did you know this title sequence is the music video to this song, just without the credits? So
Oh,
it kind of has a music video vibe to it.
okay. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Did you know who this Bond song rejected by? Like they created
Oh,
their own
really?
version?
No, I don't.
Blondie.
Ooh, that'd be a good one too. Is that song available, the version that they made?
There it is. And if you
Yeah.
just Google Blondie for your eyes only, you'll see it. It's nothing like this one where it's like super like
It's like a
like
ballad.
this one, yeah, it's like a ballad, kind of easy listening type. This
Hmm.
very different tones and songs. So personally, I prefer this version a little better. That's
Hmm.
usually the case for those rejected ones. It's like if because there are a bunch of other rejected ones I think I mentioned before, but
Hmm.
usually the one they go with is like, oh, okay, I can see why they went with this. But it's just crazy the amount of other like super super popular singers have done
Yeah.
James Bond songs that didn't get into the James Bond cinematic universe.
It, Yeah, now Sheena Easton is officially part
Or
of the franchise, the
the,
universe.
the JBCU.
Yeah, not even JCU, JBCU.
Yeah.
But no, I think they may definitely. Well, I haven't listened to the song, but I do think it was the right pick. I think this is a very notable song. If even maybe an overlooked song. I don't hear whenever people talk about the best themes. I don't know if this one comes up very often, but I think it should be. But
I don't either. I mean, I always hear Goldfinger, and I've heard um, Thunderball a couple of times, like being brought up. But I've never heard this one.
Yeah, but I can tell you what I think it is. I think it's because of the movie it's attached to. This movie has its lovers. This movie has its haters. I think it's a lot of in the middle talk. I don't think this is anybody's favorite Bond. I'm sure it is out there. Like Ryan, is this your favorite Bond movie?
Well, hi Nathan. I got to tell you,
Yeah,
it was okay.
yeah. Yeah. No. I'm a little less than that. I'm not quite middle of the road. I actually.
No,
Oh, go ahead.
I was actually. I didn't really care for it.
Yeah, I didn't like this one. I hate it. Well, not that I hate it. I hate that I didn't like this one because I went in with tried to have an open mind. I was like, okay, a little more laid back, more. It's just kind of boring, and that's not what I want my Bond to be. We complain about the overtop Bonds like Moonraker and stuff, but this one's just like it's not really interesting.
It's too far in the other direction, and
Yeah.
I mean, I'll agree. Moonraker, little too over the top.
Mm-hmm.
I'll agree there, but I remember Moonraker a lot more, and I had more fun with Moonraker than this one. And this one, it's like they were going completely in the direction of like we want a grounded Bond. This has got to be serious Bond, and this one too. I think the other problem issue I had with it is that usually like Bond villains, they're usually very like pre-established. Like this is who the Bond villain is, and this one it takes like almost till almost the end of the movie before you find out who the true villain is.
Yeah, and I think that does kill the movie because this is. Once again I complained about the villain, not a Moonraker, but I think it was The Spy Who Loved Me. But this one's even worse. Just because he doesn't feel like a villain for most of the movie, and then when he's revealed as the villain, he's just kind of weak. He's like a guy that like villains and Bonds don't have to be like super Doctor Evil type, but I want some personality. This guy he just doesn't have personality.
No, and that there's so many other. I didn't like because I guess the guy that they ended up playing the villain in this one, I guess he was considered to play James Bond at one point.
But the Julian Glover, right?
Yeah, they said they had him like for the like he's a little too young, but then they waited because Sean Connery was James Bond for so long, and then it got to the point where it's like, oh, well, now he's too old to play James
That
Bond.
Must suck. That must be like a slap in the face. Like now you're too old. Maybe make a good Bond. I don't know because I mean, if I remember right, Julian Glover has been in good movies. Yeah, he's in Last Crusade. He's the bad guy in Last Crusade, and he is really good in that role. But here it's just like I don't know if it's just the writing or what. One of the things that I think is weird about this movie is I think it relies a little too much specifically on Her Majesty's Secret Service at one point because we have the opening where the dead wife and he even more proof that this is the same Bond. He just is a shapeshifter.
No, I mean the other guy left. He's keeping up appearances by going to this grave.
Yeah,
because the other Bond's in hiding, or he's like living a civilian life now. So now he's going that road. Or maybe this Bond also married a Tracy that died.
Yeah, Tracy. Yeah, that's probably it. I think that's it. Can I be honest with you? I had to read.
No.
Okay, then I'll lie to our audience. I knew this plot thoroughly. I understood it. No, I mean for real, I had to kind of read the plot after I watched this. It is there it's for me, I don't know why. It was a little confusing, and I think it's because there's like plot points that don't matter. Like there's the big thing at the beginning is there's I think it's called attack. It's like a ship and it's like a device and it crashes and the government's basically the British don't want Russians to get it. And
Yeah.
but that's like a plot point that doesn't really matter. That device is just unimportant to the rest of the movie. And I think I was
Yeah,
focused too hard on that.
not till the very end of the movie, really, because
No.
there's a sub that controls all the, and it has like the missile launch codes
Mm-hmm.
to other subfleets with nuclear weapons, and they're like, oh my god, they could have British ships attacking other British ships, and the submarine sinks, and they're like, we got to find this submarine.
The submarine stuck at the bottom of the ocean, and then we get our Bond girl in this one. They once again try to set up a Bond girl that's, I guess, has a little more of a story, a little more power to her role, played by Carole Bouquet. I believe that's how you say it. French actress, and she's a vengeful Bond girl. She wants to kill the people that killed her parents. And then that's how she gets intertwined with Bond because they get in this plot together.
Yeah, I wanted to like it because I was like, okay, at least she's got a motivation, but I kind of thought her performance was a little wooden.
That's the perfect word. That's the word I was going to use. Wooden. She's not good. She's not good. Like she's like I like her. Don't get me wrong, but just not really a good performance. I don't think her or Roger Moore have good chemistry together. I don't think they really work together. I guess that's another big topic. Roger Moore is getting old, or at least he is starting to look old. And he's kind of playing into that role in this one, playing an older, quieter Bond. But it's definitely noticeable. You can tell like the wrinkles are starting to grow on his face.
Yeah, at this point, I think he's like 50 something, like 52.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, because he was born in 27, so yeah, it would have been around there.
Mm-hmm.
Or yeah, 54, excuse me. Or yeah. So there, he's getting older, and I think finally they're starting to realize like Bond getting with some of these real younger women is a little kind of creepy a little bit, because I mean, don't get me wrong, like the girl that he gets with, Carole Bouquet, she is she's pretty young. I mean, there's about a 30-year difference there, but there's one character where they get a professional skater, Lynn Holly Johnson, who is in the movie, and she's like in her teens or something, late teens, something like that in the movie.
Yeah, she might be legal, but like it's like pushing it. She's definitely playing a young person, very like happy, giddy, jumping around kind of deal. And I guess Roger Moore was pretty against them having like sex at all in the movie, and he plays that pretty well. He's like, I don't, in the movie he really, because she wants to sleep with him, but he's like, no, I don't want any of that.
And I thought about that, and I'm like, because she's like, oh, let's, she gets naked in his bed and all that, and like, and she's very kind of like, oh, like, can you believe that he's like my coach thinks I'm still a virgin, and she starts like climbing all over Roger Moore, and I was just thinking, I'm like, if this was a Sean Connery version, Sean Connery, well, if I must, he would be all over that. Like,
think about it. Like over 10 years earlier, there's that one scene in God, which one is it where Sean Connery basically coerces that nurse?
Thunderball.
Yeah, that's Thunderball. Sean Connery just had to have it. He was like a freak.
Blackmails the nurse to say basically like, I won't tell your boss if you sleep with me. And
yeah, but now Roger Moore is like, I guess that's part of the difference between these two. At least now, as he gets older, he's he's a little more laid back when it comes. This one has sex in it, but it's a little more laid back with it.
I I did like it though because she's naked and he's just like, now put your clothes on, darling, and I'll buy you an ice cream.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, I guess one thing, because that scene takes place at the ski resort. Once again, I think maybe I'm just feeling fatigue, and maybe if it was years between me watching movies, it'd be different. But month after month, this has a ski resort scene. Again, we're back to skiing, and they even repeat Roger Moore skiing down a bobsled. I mean, it's not a bobsled, but they still are on a bobsled track at one point. And I
Yeah.
just felt like, oh, we're just doing this again. Okay.
Well, and then they're skiing and he's shooting a gun. It's like they're doing
Hmm.
um Spy Who Loved Me again, or doing now they're going down the bobsled, they're doing On Her Majesty's Secret Service, they're
Hmm.
in a remote mountain village, On Her Majesty's Secret Service again. There's another submarine. This is Spy Who Loved Me again. It's like
Yeah. It it's like, oh, what made the other ones work? We'll just repeat it again. That's what it felt like to me. And I just felt like we were getting a rehash. Like it's just a little tired like right now.
yeah, maybe like you said, if this was 5 years in between or four
Mhm.
years or whatever it was. No, I think it was two actually
Yeah,
between.
this
Yeah.
one was a really short between of 2 years. Yeah.
But still, though, if we had taken a 2 year break and then done this episode, it might have been
Yeah.
a little more fun. But it's just like the kaiju movies where it's just like, okay, like seeing this, and it's like, but I mean, at least this one they at least film new scenes and they don't just let's just reuse the same. Can you imagine
It's
if
true.
they we just reused like
Oh
George
my
Lazenby
God.
like skiing down?
Yeah, that would be wonderful. They got they got Blofeld in that movie, but they're just saying he's like a henchman or something in those
Yeah,
scenes. That'd be
yeah.
wonderful. Yeah, no, I don't think James Bond could ever get away with something like that. Or will
No.
they?
Oh,
I don't think so.
do they?
No, I don't know. Maybe I doubt it. But yeah, this is just a rehash. There is one good action scene before this. I actually really liked the scene. He drives his Lotus up to kind of go talk to this hitman. And I do love the scene where they try to break into the Lotus and it explodes on them, and the
It
dummy like flies.
Well, it's funny, yeah, because they the henchman like breaks the glass to try to get into the vehicle, and the
Mhm.
vehicle just explodes. But it's filmed not great, I'll
No.
say. Like the special, like they put a stationary dummy like right next to a car, and they explode the car, and the dummy, it just flies like in the same position like it was when it was standing there. So it's like it
Yeah.
looks just like a dummy.
Yeah, they didn't try to hide it at all. But the joke is that they have to run away in like kind of a small crappy car. But I do like that like they talked about in the behind the scenes that gave them the ability to do more with the car. So the car takes a lot of damage. It rolls down hills. It flies over things. It's actually a really fun chase scene.
Um, I do like that scene.
Hmm.
That but because I really wasn't expecting Bond to get in like a little crappy car because it's always
Hmm.
been these super nice, like the Esperit or the
Yeah,
Aston Martin, and
yeah.
just like all these real classic cars, and it's like, oh, Fiat. Like,
Exactly. It's
uh,
no, it's funny.
I want to bring up the scene because I brought it up to you over text, but
Hmm.
there's a scene like when they're at HQ and they're trying to do like facial
Yeah.
recreation to somebody, like to see if they can figure out who the bad guy is. And there's a scene where Bond's on the phone, like talking to the secretary because M is not in this movie because M was not in was that was his last movie.
Yeah, yeah.
So
He had
so
passed away and they didn't want to recast him.
so they're still trying to figure out what they're gonna do for M or whatever. But anyway, he calls in and there's just like a prolonged like cue is just flat out like just staring at the camera.
Yeah, no, I don't know why I would assume they took multiple takes of this scene, but the editor, for whatever reason, decided to keep. I think I would have definitely noticed it even because you pointed out to me before I saw it, and I'm sure I still would have seen it. He was just looking dead at the camera, and then he's like, "Oh, we're filming," and looks at Bond. It makes you think he's like too old to be in a movie, but this man's gonna be in these for a while. He's in it till the 90s.
I know. Like just it's almost like I think they were maybe thinking he was like, okay, well, we're just going to take the audio from this scene,
Yeah.
maybe, and maybe they just didn't tell him like it was gonna like, oh no, we're gonna shoot you guys like act, doing the phone call, but
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, I was like, what? Like, why is he just staring at the screen?
Yeah, yeah. You sent me. He's breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that pretty much was.
yeah. And I mean that scene is interesting too because they do the facial reconstruction in a computer, and that seems like uncomfortably long in my opinion. Because like I get it, they're showing off cool technology, but he's like, no, the eyes were a little smaller, and they go through some more eyes, like, maybe that one, yeah, light blue. It's like really long.
It almost felt like they were like, yeah, this is cool. Like
Yeah,
we gotta show this scene. But
yeah,
it is funny you said because I thought the same thing. I was like, this is really long for like
yeah.
it's something that should be like a couple of seconds. Like,
Hmm. But you're right. It was 1981. I'm sure seeing like the 3D reconstructions on a computer, it's cool. And it makes sense. The in the Q Lab scene in this one isn't as crazy as it has been recently either. There's a killer umbrella. There's a cast that slaps somebody, and that's about it. Other
and I
than,
did like, oh yeah, the umbrella, yeah, just like caves in on somebody's head.
yeah, I thought that was pretty good. Um, it's I'm thinking about it right now as far as plot goes. Everything in between all these scenes that we are talking about, I think, are just dull. If we talked about this before. The plot itself, I never was enveloped in it. Just these two interacting. Melina, oh, she doesn't have a nasty name this time. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, Bond and Melina, where they don't have chemistry, I don't think the revenge plot works very well. So everything in between just it's really dull. It's just really dull. I could have slept.
Yeah, I really wasn't feeling this one.
No. Um,
It's not. I don't know if it's definitely not my least favorite, but
it. I'd have to
well,
think about it.
I don't know.
I don't know either because like I think it might be as far as like letterbox go. I looked. It is my lowest rated, but I don't really think it's a bad movie. That's the thing. Like it feels like I would I would throw this on. I mean, would I throw out every other Bond instead? Yeah, but if this was on, I wouldn't be offended. It's not necessarily a bad movie. It's just not an impressive one, I guess. I don't know.
But I think we said our least favorite two bottom tier because we haven't done our final rankings yet.
Hmm.
Uh, was probably Diamonds Are Forever and Man with the Golden Gun.
Yeah, that's
And,
true.
and
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, and I'm like, would I watch those two over this one? And I'm like, and in my mind right now, I'm saying yes.
Yeah, I think so too. At least Man with the Golden. It's all about memorable things. Your Bond movie has to be remembered. It has to have something memorable. Man with the Golden Gun. You got an amazing villain there and a great henchman too. And like
Mm-hmm.
this, what really does it have that's memorable that wasn't already done better in a different Bond movie? It's just it's a little. It's not as impressive. There's one thing I do like. I do like the character Columbo, who I thought was the villain, and played by Topol, who is the guy from Fiddler on the Roof. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
I actually do like him a lot. I think he's actually a buddy to James Bond. He actually has a character. He would have made a great villain. I really wish they would have swapped that, but he's a lot of fun to be around.
I thought so too. I do. I thought he was good because I at least
Mhm.
remember his character, but it's like I don't know. Julian Glover just doesn't have a whole lot to work with. I feel
Yeah,
like.
I think maybe it's just like a bad plot because all it is like, oh, I'm just he's a bad guy. He's not. He has no world domination, big plans or anything. What is his plan really? Just to like make money?
Yeah, I mean, just to have all the attack or
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
Good job, buddy. We did mention the bobsled scene. I do have to say they skipped over this in the behind the scenes, and I think that's kind of funny. Somebody actually died during the making of this movie. A stuntman died during the bobsled recording.
There wasn't a shark, was it?
No, it was not a shark. You do see it on film, and they put it all in the trailers. Watch a man die.
But someone seriously did die during this.
Oh yeah, I'm not joking. Yeah, somebody did die during the making of it. A stuntman did die.
They didn't even mention that in because
yeah,
every James Bond movie there's a little 30-minute behind the scenes thing, and they didn't mention that at all.
No, and I thought that was kind of funny and depressing because I don't know the full story, and I wonder how bad it actually is. Because it seems like other times if somebody died or something happened in those behind the scenes, they're like, oh, he was a wonderful person, and we'll remember him. They don't touch upon that at all.
Well, they mentioned the one guy, I forget which other James Bond movie it was, but the one guy that lost his leg.
That's right. Yeah, they did mention that. Yeah.
And they was oh, he lost his leg, but he was right back at it as soon as he could. And but that would be something worth noting.
Yeah, I think so. I think we should remember this person. I don't think a human should die for a movie. Right. That's my stance. I know it's very controversial, but
I disagree. I'm with the popular opinion.
Okay. Yeah.
Art before lives.
Okay. I mean, you're more power to you. You're allowed to have your opinion.
No, but another scene I did dig, I liked, was the rock climbing scene. I thought that one worked pretty well.
I agree, especially after watching Cliffhanger and to see this movie do something similar, almost more than 10 years earlier. There's some really good moments. They talk about seeing the behind the scenes kind of helped improve that scene about how they had to fall and he's dangling by just a rope. And even while watching the movie, I was like, oh, wow, I wonder how they did that. And they've actually just had a stunt person out there doing all this. And it looks impressive.
And it was the same skier from Moonraker.
Yep. Yeah. Which is really cool that they brought him back. I really love the story behind the scenes that Pierce Brosnan was on set for this one. And they were like, oh, you could be a Bond.
Yeah, they're like, oh, Cubby Broccoli saw Pierce, and they went, but that's in the back of my mind.
Yeah. Do you think that was true? Do you think?
I honestly, yeah, because the only reason because I think there was a rumor that they wanted Pierce Brosnan to be James Bond, back in to take over when Timothy Dalton took over.
Gotcha.
But he was too busy doing Remington Steele.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. And then Timothy Dalton didn't work for them. So
no, they're like, oh God, we gotta get Pierce.
But we'll be the judge of that. We'll judge what's better. But the overall ending of this movie after the cliffhanger scene, I actually, once again, I kind of lost interest in it. It's kind of a back and forth revenge fight. And of course, Bond, after earlier in the movie, he kicks a car with a man in it because because of revenge. He actually murders somebody, and it feels really off kilter, actually. I was going to talk about something, but I do have to talk about once Bond hangs out with Columbo there, and not that Columbo, of course, but
the detective.
Yeah, the detective, Peter Falk. But he changes his personality. He wears a dark jacket. He kills someone in cold blood. There's a guy hanging off the cliff, and he's like, okay. He throws the pin at him. He's like, you forgot this, and then knocks his car over, killing him. And he's like, there's a lot more shooting in those scenes. They changed him a little.
Yeah. I don't know. I prefer the sillier Bond. I want James Bond to be cracking one-liners, not so much murdering people in cold blood.
Especially Roger Moore. If this was a new Bond, it was 81 and they got a new Bond, maybe I would kind of be like, okay, let's think about this again. But Roger Moore has already established himself for multiple movies. I think it's weird to try to change him now And I don't think he feels right doing stuff like that.
No, it doesn't. No, I overall, I didn't. It's not a bad movie, like you said. It's just not a good James Bond movie.
No, and I totally agree. I would agree overall. After watching all the Bonds up to this point, this is just not really interesting. It's a rehash and not really fun to watch. If there was one I would say you don't have to watch the most so far, this one's here. But we're not even into what people consider the worst Bonds yet, so we still got a lot to go.
We're getting there, don't worry.
Oh, very soon. But yeah, I mean, I think that wraps it up for today. James Bond will return in Octopussy.
Wow. Can't wait.
I bet. Ryan, what are we going to be talking about next time?
Well, Nathan, thank you for asking. It's going to be continuing the Toho lineage, going back to the Toho well, but again, not doing Godzilla. You're going to have to wait just a little bit longer. Yeah, you're going to got to hold it in. But don't worry, this one is another classic approved by Brad Pitt, and it is called War of the Gargantuas. And that one is pretty much streaming everywhere. It's on Max, YouTube, Criterion Channel, so it's not hard to find at all.
Really easy. But I'm excited to watch that. If you enjoyed this episode, email us at driveindoublefeaturepodcast@gmail.com. Also, you can you can post at us at X at DIDF pod. But until next time.
Until next time.